Hi, I'm Alex, and in this video, I'm going to show you the third wave pre-built solution for synchronizing SAP Business One items to Shopify. This solution is configured using Bizweaver, third wave's integration and process automation application. And in this video, we're going to cover how to stage those items if you want to stage your items, how to load and sync those items to the Shopify store, managing and modifying the items via Versago. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So to start this process, we want to first stage your items. Now, we have found staging tables for especially e-commerce integrations to be a very successful way to integrate the two platforms of SAP and your e-commerce provider, in this case Shopify, because it makes it so simple to modify and update those items without it directly interacting with SAP if not needed. For example, the item's quantity, if you want to add show more on your e-commerce site than you do have in SAP, we can do that because the staging table can accommodate that. So let's go ahead and open this workflow to get started and seeing how we get those items from SAP to our staging table. The first step of this process of this integration is that we want to get all our products from SAP and we want to start staging them in our staging table so we can prepare them to sync through the Shopify API. Now, you're thinking, oh, well, I want all my items up, or, how do I pick the items? So we use UDFs, user-defined fields in SAP, to denote what item goes from SAP into Shopify, letting the integration know that only certain items will be syncing up into our Shopify store. So if you want to do only half your items, only a few items or all your items, we can make that happen. So the first thing we do is we get all the items from our SAP instance, and then we get all the item details. Now, the item details can be anything you want, between height, the weight of the item. It could be anything of that nature that you want to show a very custom description. It could be, instructions on how to use the item, and we can make those all sync to Shopify separately. But in our staging table, we have the ability to, store that information so we can get it all up into Shopify. Last of this very simple process, or the next part of this very simple process, is we're adding the items to our staging table through inserting it. And then we're going to go into another loop to make sure SAP gets added that the item has been staged. So we want to make sure that items that have already been staged in our staging table from SAP, all those products have a flag on them of yes, that they have been staged. So that's what we do. So we loop through all the items, we get those details, add them to the staging table, and then we mark them in SAP that the item has been staged. And so when we keep going through this or new items are added, we can then ignore the items that have already been added. Or if you want to remove items, we can check that flag to see if the item has been if that flag has been changed. Once SAP has been updated, we leave this loop and then we end the items loop and then we end the workflow. So it's a very simple way to stage the items, and we can make it much more succinct than that. We can make it as big or as small as you need it to in order to fit your company's needs. So the next thing we're going to look at is our loading those items to Shopify. But remember, at the end of this video, we're going to go over how to modify those items using Versago so you can manage all your items and see what's on your Shopify store. So let's go ahead and step into the next section of this video, which is syncing those items or syncing those products to the Shopify store. Now, moving to the syncing section of these products from Shopify to from our staging table to Shopify, it's actually a very simple process that we can do to make this happen. So the first thing we do is we get our items list from the staging table. We make sure that we only grab the staged items and the items that we want to use. Then we get the item detail again, which is all the detail that you wanted initially in your integration for your products to be syncing to the Shopify through their API. So we build the JSON for them. We build the items and then the variants. Then we add the item to Shopify. Now, adding the item to Shopify is a simple API call. And remember that all you have to do to make these API calls work is you're really just changing this forward section of the URL. So this section right here, you're just going to plug in your company's information And once we get our connection set up for Shopify, it's all done and there's nothing else you need to do. So we get that cumulative data from our JSON here, our data builders, because as it loops through, it's going to build that. We're going to then read the product info and read the variants. We also get the location because sometimes for Shopify, you need the location to update some of the items. And then we're going to read that location. Then after that's done, we're going to update our API info. What this is doing is it's going to update our staging table with the requisite API information. And it's really nice to do this because it makes it easy for us to locate the item on the store or even address it when we're addressing it later in API calls to update that product. We then check to make sure there's no UDF in already set up for this item in SAP. Like say if it wasn't filled, we want to make sure it is. Then we go through our loop and we update that the item has been added to the Shopify store. It's, we're synchronizing it. The product was synchronized, and then we update all the API information in SAP as well. So you can have it there as well if you ever needed to reference it. And if you also, this is if you were doing a non-staged or you're not staging your items to get them into Shopify. The next thing is we go to a success or fail. So if the item failed to update in SAP, we can email a group of users, or we just skip over that and let the process continue adding those items. We're going to then end our loop to update SAP, and then we're going to end our loop to update those items. So as you can see, it's a very simple process adding products through the Shopify API, and it makes it easy because this is very modifiable. It can grow with your company. It can scale to fit more items, and it can make it easier to just add those items to Shopify without having to worry what items are up, because now since we're staging them, we have a list. So going into that with the list that we can check them in Versago without actually needing any SQL background, you can use Versago to see a list of all the items that have been staged on your Shopify instance. And to do that, we're going to go to our reports, our e-commerce manager, and then e-commerce items. So what this is going to do is it's going to list all of your items that are on the store, the price that you have in SAP, the price you have on the website, any description, other information that you have along with it. And it's a nice way to manage all those items in a single report where you can then also modify the items individually, which we're going to go over right now. So to go over and modify an item, you would just click on the item link right here for the SAP item code, and it's going to go into our form where you can see that we have some details that are modifiable. Like for example, we can show that we can change the quantity of what we display on the site, what the price we display on the site, if we want to change the description, the color, the size, any of that information, we can then hit save and close. And this item will then go ahead and kick off another workflow in SAP in Bizweaver to then update in Shopify. So that product, you have a lot of control over how to use that, or how to update that product, how to show that product, how you want to display it on your Shopify store for your company. So that's all it is for this video. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And thank you for watching this Shopify item integration video.